Good evening, and thank you for taking your time. It's been nearly 2 weeks. I think it's been nearly 2 weeks since I put anything up. For multiple reasons, I've got a lot of things going on. I'm even preparing a few things. But again, I come back to the same things. I don't know why. There's an old saying, why do you beat a dead horse? But I don't think it's just that. I think it's important that we revisit things that need to be revisited, talk about things that need to be talked about, address things that need to be addressed. I know that sounds like a little bit of word salad, but I promise you it's not. You know, there's a lot of disputing out there among the brethren who call themselves brethren. In fact, I doubt they're brethren at all. We have an arguments and division in online forums, online chat forums, online YouTube videos, in the comments section. And it reminds me of some of the old jokes that people talked about way back in the day when Facebook was a thing. Well, I guess it's still a thing. People are still on Facebook. But it reminds me of those times that, everybody, what do you call them? The keyboard warriors. And everybody's willing to say something. But nobody has the courage, the guts, so to speak, or the wherewithal, the desire, whatever words you want to put on it. No one has it to communicate or confront the person in person. That is the beauty of online. Now, we get into things like, prophets and so forth, and we have no way of disputing them all the time because they hide behind a microphone. Yes, Stephen, you're talking about hiding behind a microphone, but you are indeed behind a microphone at this very moment. That is true. We have these online so-called preachers and pastors. Wait, some don't call themselves pastors, and yet they follow the same rules. They do the same things. Just because you don't want to call yourself a pastor or even call yourself a preacher doesn't mean you're not trying to be one. You can pretty it up. You can put any kind of lovely verbiage to it that you want, but still you are trying to be what you claim not to be. There are a lot of men who hold themselves higher. There are novices up there who try to be better than other people. There are cult people up there, or people who have cultish behaviors. And there are people who do not understand how to deal with disputes except for be petty little children in these online comments. I find more men who think they're preachers and teachers and pastors who are really just babies, just childish. And I've spoken about this before, and perhaps I'll keep on talking about it till I'm blue in the face because no one wants to seem to do so. I'm not picking someone in particular out. I do have a few people in mind, yes. I'd rather talk to those people, but those people are usually too scared. No, that's not a little threat. Reverse psychology, call them scared. That's not what I'm talking about at all. These men are turned down by other men. You want to call them men. But they have no idea how to deal with disputes or those who come against them. If you can't handle those who believe in your messages and come against you, how are you going to deal with the world? You will falter. You will fall. You will kneel and you will bow, not to his name, but you will bow to Satan because you lack the ability, and maybe you lack the discipleship because you thought you didn't need to listen to elders. You thought you were better than your elders, but I'm afraid that is not the case. You are not. You are so immature to think you're more mature than they are. Born-again Christians should approach resolving disputes with the focus on principles from a biblical perspective, emphasizing reconciliation, forgiveness, humility, and even hold the phone, biblical love. Not mainstream Christian love, but actual biblical love. All born-again Christians should turn to the Bible for advice on resolving conflicts. But don't turn to men. No. Do not turn to men. Let me just grab my taped together Bible here that I use on my desk. Let us go straight to, if not, yeah, we'll go straight to Matthew chapter 18. Matthew chapter 18. And I didn't have my Bible open and ready to go, but I've got it open and ready to go now. Let's go. Matthew chapter 18. I don't know how long this is going to be. Could be a half hour, could be 25 minutes. Who knows? I don't put a time limit on things. That's not true. I try to keep it under a half an hour, but you never know what's going to happen. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15 through 17, or verses. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. And this is where most stop. That's it. That is it. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. Some may even go that further step, but most do not. Especially these I don't know what you want to call them, these online little pastors who try to get this big congregation worldwide and on the internet. But you're on the internet, Steve. But I'm not here for a congregation. I'm not here to find everybody. In fact, I feel guilty having a donation page for asking up to $200 for Bibles and gospel tracts. In fact, I'm going to take that down. In fact, I don't want that $200. If someone wants to send me gospel tracts or send me Bibles, I will distribute those for you. That way you're not out the money. You don't have to send me money because I work for a living, and every born-again Christian man that can should. Verse 16, but if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. How often do you see these online communities, little chat forums, these little YouTube channels where the people are getting blocked and banned and all this other stuff? I'm hearing about it. I see it. Because you had a small dispute. Some of them are kind of silly, if you ask me. I mean, I think some of the things that people get angry about are a little nonsensical to me, but that's okay. We all have little weird things. But it shouldn't be about salvation. It shouldn't be about who died and rose again for you. It shouldn't be about who shed his blood. It shouldn't be who runs what, because, my friend, I don't run anything. You don't run anything. The Lord does. Remember that. You say it, but you don't often mean it. And as you can see in this chapter, or chapter 18, verses 15 through what I just read, 17, it outlines a process for addressing grievances within the body of Christ community. The passage first addresses the issue privately, then with a few witnesses if needed, and finally involving the body if necessary. See how important that is? But these steps are never followed. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, if they do not follow this, walk away, run away, drive away, whatever you got to do, get out of there. But Stephen, are you saying they're a cult? I'm not saying they are. I'm saying a little off. By the way, the first step before confronting anyone, the first step is should be that the Christians, the born-again Christian, should pray for wisdom and guidance in resolving disputes. Prayer is to seek God's will and to cultivate a spirit of humility and understanding. What about forgiveness and reconciliation? As we well know, forgiveness is a central part of Christianity. We'll just use that terminology. I'm not going to get into the separations. I don't believe all Christians are Christians and Christianity. But if you follow my channel, you know what I'm talking about. But Christians, born-again Christians, are encouraged to forgive other born-again Christians as God has forgiven them. Because I don't think you see that often, do you? This focus on forgiveness can help de-escalate conflicts and promote healing. Let's go to Matthew. Actually, let's stay in Matthew chapter 18, verse 21. 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me? And I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Pretty big focus there, isn't it, on forgiveness? And I'm going to say again, if you don't see that on these channels you're watching, if you don't see these in these forums that you're communicating in, run. Run. There is no substitute for personal communication. I want you to understand that. Can you be online? Can you get some things out there? Sure. Can you even find occasionally people online? Yes. But it should never be a substitute of never walking out your front door and going out onto that street and finding someone, whether it be on Facebook, whether you meet someone, then you meet with them personally. You cannot do that. Or I should say you should not avoid doing that. While we're in Matthew, let's go to chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. That is the wrinkling of the pages. Matthew chapter 6. Verses 14. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. If you can't forgive and you can't reconcile, you will not be forgiven. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think, well, I'm not going to deal with it. I didn't like the way they talked about whatever it may be. I don't even know. Flat Earth. Let's take that one. That one's surprising. I was just talking to a brother today on the phone, or texting with them about that briefly, but very briefly. I wasn't saying he's a flat earther or a global. But man, how is that even in the body of Christ? I'm dumbfounded by that. You know, we have to find a way. We have to find a way, as Paul had said in Romans, to get along if possible. In chapter 12, verse 18, it says, If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Lieth just means depending on that particular person, you. It's tough sometimes. It really is. Doesn't mean you have to stay there. You can move forward. You can move on. You know, it's important for a Christian. It's important for one to admit one's faults and being willing to be accountable and make amends. It's important. Humility can help in resolving conflicts by showing a willingness to take responsibility and work towards a solution. I feel a lot of these people in these forums and these channels, and I think there's a good deal that are just children. But the problem is these children, and I don't mean they're 12, I mean the mentality and their approach is childlike. You know, we're supposed to give up childish things when you become a man. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time. I don't mean not to go play catch with your children. It's not what I mean. You know, someone once said they wished there were good preachers like 100 years ago. Imagine that. What a great divide. We used to have godly men who were preachers. Now we have preachers who think they're godly men who can preach. They cannot. I want to go to Proverbs 15. Proverbs chapter 15. I should have bookmarked some of these. Proverbs chapter 15. I did not bookmark them. Again, you can hear the wrinkling pages, and that's another thing. And I got away from that too. But listen, man, they got to be using this book. And I don't mean just the words, I mean the book. A lot of men like to put the computer on. I know, I'm knocking men now. Oh, who are you to judge? But I just, nothing like good old fashioned page turning. You know what I mean? That's the way it should be. None of these, I put together it on a software system. I'm not saying you can't look at it, but I mean, when you do videos and stuff like that, I'm getting off track here. When you do these videos, and I'm like, I don't know. To me, it just makes it really impersonal. Chapter 15, verse 22. Without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors, they are established. And purposes just means plans that are confused. That's kind of all that means. But without counsel, and nobody wants counsel. Nobody wants to actually go to elders. They want to be an elder, but they don't want to go to the elders. Ain't that amazing? Ain't that amazing? Let's go to Galatians chapter 6:1. Galatians chapter 6:1. I know, it's been a little while since I've put a little tiny study together. Actually, I put this on the fly, actually, today, so. Chapter 6, verse 1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. A lot of men split because they disagree. But the problem with that is it creates a bigger issue than they think. And they don't think. That's a problem. They think with selfishness and their own desires. And they go their own ways and do what they want. And I'm doing this, blah, 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 blah. Let's take a look at Barnabas and Paul. I think even the relationship between Barnabas and Mark is a compelling story of mentorship, disagreement, and the actual eventual reconciliation between all of them. See, that gets left out. People don't want to reconcile with each other. They just want what they want, and that's it. Well, I don't really care what you want. It's not about what you feel. It's not about what you want. What's God want? What does the Bible teach us? That's the important thing. If you fail there, you're done. You fail. That's it. And most of you probably know who Barnabas is. But he was obviously a biblical, well, it's a good word. I'll just call him Christian leader. Lack of phrasing there. He's a Christian leader who was known for his encouragement and support. That was his big thing. He was also the cousin of John Mark. And to recap, if you're listening first time and you've never heard this, I don't know who's listening, so I'll just say it. Barnabas played a key role in introducing Paul to the early Christian community after Paul's conversion in Acts chapter 9. Barnabas and Mark were closely associated as well, with Barnabas acting as a mentor to Mark. On their first journey together, Barnabas and Paul took Mark with them as an assistant, Acts chapter 12 and 13. However, Mark left the mission early. Basically, he kind of quit and returned to Jerusalem. Although the reasons for Mark's departure are not exactly specified, but it did cause a significant issue later on, and even in that moment. But that's where we have that dispute. When Barnabas and Paul planned their second missionary journey, Barnabas wanted to take Mark along again. Paul, however, felt strongly against it due to Mark's early departure, quitting, withdrawal, however you want to say it. The disagreement was rather intense. In fact, it was so intense that it led to a split between Barnabas and Paul. And as a result of that, Barnabas took Mark with him to Cyprus because while Paul chose Silas as his new companion and continued his missions in Acts chapter 15. And listen, the Bible talks about it, it was sharp. It was sharp, that disagreement. But here's the reconciliation, though. You never hear this talked about. Well, maybe you do. Maybe I'm just making things up because I don't listen to every preacher under the sun. I haven't heard everybody in the world, but I have not really heard it. Because despite their earlier disagreements, the relationship actually between Paul and Mark eventually healed. In fact, in Paul's later writings, he acknowledges Mark's value and usefulness. I think it was in 2 Timothy chapter 4, 3, 4. Paul, you know what? Well, I guess let's go look it up real quick. 2 Timothy. Yeah, I know, I'm on the fly on this one. Some of it I go by memory, some of it I don't, so. But this is the important part. I mean, we like to choose. I hate somebody to say, "Oh, you listen to your wife," because I do believe men who listen to their wives, that's a Jezebel spirit. I'm just telling you right now. All I'm saying is, when your wife is running your ministry, you got problems. Second Timothy chapter 4, I think I said. Verse 11. Only Luke is with me. Take Mark, and bring him with thee, for he is profitable for me for the ministry. Wait, what? Hold on. I thought, what happened? See, there was an argument, there was a dispute, but they never hated one another. They didn't ban each other on YouTube. They didn't make little gossipy talks behind people's back. And I'm not even talking about myself, because I have no idea if anybody's ever gossiped behind my back, because I don't really care, because that's all baby stuff. That's all little middle school grade stuff, and it's sad and pathetic. That's why I don't call any of those people men. I'm just saying, you get involved in all that, that's just men. You want to talk about things and some issues, fine. You want to go, oh, you know what, such and such. I do enjoy some Peter Ruckman, but I enjoy a lot of guys. Vernon McGee, I think he's got some good stuff out there. Anyway, I don't want to get off course, but man, get some people they talk about gossip and such. And the same people who get mad and offended or against gossip themselves. It's an age-old story. Whether you're in a church building or whether you're in an online church building, it is the same thing that happens. Do you know what such and such? You know, this person. And I've seen people talk some stuff about other people, then suddenly go back to those people and pretend that they never said nothing. It's pretty sad. I was looking for a verse. Yeah, I don't know where it is now. But anyways, they when Paul requests Mark's presence, when he basically states to have Mark come with, and he's profitable for the ministry, this shows that Paul recognizes. It's not saying that Paul was an error before. He may have been right in what he was saying, and Mark wasn't ready for whatever reason. But Paul recognizes Mark's growth and his contribution to the work in the ministry. Again, he goes, "Well, nope, you're out. You can't be part of my online clique anymore. You can't sit at my lunch table." Maybe it's mocking these men. If you want to call it, fine. You can say what you want, but grow up. Guys, grow up. You want to be disciplers? When you can't even disciple yourself, when you haven't even been discipled, or maybe you just didn't like how you were being discipled. You were like, nope, I'm going to do it my way. It isn't about your way. It's not about my way. It's not about even the person who you feel is a mentor, their way. It's the Bible's way. It's God's way. And remember, Mark went on to have a significant impact on the early church at that time. It had a very close association with Peter. No, not Peter the Pope. That's Simon Magus, I believe, but that's a whole different ballgame. Uh-oh, I just opened up a can of worms on that one. Oh, no. But here's the deal. The legacy of this whole thing, the story of Barnabas and Mark reflects the themes in Christian life and ministry. It does, the born-again Christian life. Well, what about Paul? But it's important to mention Mark because Mark was kind of the reason for Paul and Barnabas' split. But they never stopped praying for one another. You think for one moment they went evangelizing to other churches and went, hey, stay away from Barnabas, stay away from Paul? No. I think Barnabas was a huge deal as his role as a mentor to Mark. And when it comes to the conflict and resolution, the disagreement between Paul and Barnabas illustrates that even in the early days, church leaders, we'll call them church leaders of the buildings and the homes and stuff like that, they face conflicts. But see, the difference between then and now, those conflicts could be resolved through growth, forgiveness, and reconciliation. But today's conflicts between men who think they're pastors and preachers online resolve around their emotions, their validation, their standing, how they look, how they're being perceived. But Mark's eventual reconciliation with Paul and his successful ministry underscore the potential for personal growth and restoration. Reconciliation. Because they demonstrate that even with those setbacks, even with their disagreements, even with their slight differences, Barnabas, Paul, Mark, they did not take away from the future effectiveness. But see, today you have division. You have pettiness. You have anger. Strive to be like them. Even if you have conflict, resolve the conflict properly. Don't be banning people and don't get banned and all this. Oh my goodness, I'm just my head explodes over the fact that this happens still. If you're going to call yourselves men, well then by golly, be men. Don't pretend to be men on a video screen. Be men. Because there will be times that the human part, the flesh part of you will start to come. And there must be other men who are elder who have to say, hey, can I have a word with you? And if it doesn't work, you go to what? The next step. Not to, you can't be part of my clique anymore. Go to the next step. And the next step. By biblical point. Not your points. I see we're pretty much right up on a half hour. Now, I'm not trying to say that you could never find anybody or never listen to anybody online. It's not my point. My point is be weary of these people who want to be leaders when they've never been led. Men who tell you how to live life. I don't mean live life to the fullest. When they don't even know what they're doing. And I'm going to absolutely 100% say this. I try not to get in, say it. In the last few times I have when I addressed it. But if they ain't working, they ain't men. That's it. That's all there is to it. I don't care if you like it or not. Work for your meat. That's it, man. I don't know how clear that has to be. If you are able-bodied, don't give me no nonsense about, well, I have arthritis on my knee. Yeah, me too, in my left knee. I got arthritis on my knee. Well, I had an accident a while ago. Gotcha, me too. My lower back is in pain. Not as much lately, but every now and then I'll wake up, it's real sore. It's not just from sleep stiffness, it's got an issue back there. But I get up. Now, I'm not saying I'm great because we go, oh, look at you, you get up. No, that's not what I'm saying. but I got PTSD. Yeah, I worked with a lot of guys who have PTSD. Guess what? Here's a key phrase here. I worked with a lot of guys who had it. I worked with a lot of men who had it. They had it. They went to work. I'm sorry that you got PTSD. That's awful. And that's a shame. But don't use it as a crutch. Don't use it as an excuse. There are men who have experienced, there are people who claim PTSD out there. Come on now. They ain't really got PTSD. But who am I to judge? I know, I hear you. What about these guys who actually suffered? What about guys who get Agent Orange over there? Remember that? Remember, guys got cancer and stuff like that. They're over there in the fields in Vietnam. Guess what? They came home. People looked down upon them, as we well know, with all the documentaries out there. But you know what they did? They went to work. They woke up with night sweats, but they went to work. It's sad when secular men who served our country, secular men who have diseases or they have the slight disabilities, they go to work while supposed Christian people don't. You want to know why there are a lot of people leaving the churches? You want to know why they leave Christianity? Because all these fakes, all these false teachers. That's why they leave. And it's a shame they put a bad name on born-again, Bible-believing Christians who every day go out there and do what they need to do to feed their family. And at the same time, they try to teach their children what's right and what's wrong. The mother is rearing those children. The father does his best as well. He goes to work every day. And even perhaps maybe he makes YouTube videos. But he gets out there and spreads the gospel. You can't do that. I call your manhood into question. Thank you for listening. And as always, God bless and have a beautiful evening. Good night.